This is a tale of wars and prophecies, of betrayal and martyrdom, of a teenage girl who dared to lead armies and kings, and along the way changed the destiny of nations. Welcome to the series where history comes to life through storytelling. Join us as we take you on a journey through time, exploring stories that shaped our world, and uncovering the truths behind the myths. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe for more captivating historical tales. If you enjoy our content, consider supporting us to keep these stories alive. Together, let's embark on an adventure through time. Now let's dive into the fascinating story of Joan of Arc. The 100 Years' War was far from over, and France was in dire straits. In 1429, England controlled a significant portion of France, including Paris. Despite occasional French victories, the war seemed like a losing battle. The French monarchy was divided, the peasantry was starving, and England's King Henry V looked invincible. It was in this dark hour that a peasant girl named Joan of Arc stepped onto the scene. She was not a trained warrior, nor a member of the nobility. She was just a humble farmer's daughter from a small village. But Joan had a vision. She believed she had been chosen by God to deliver France from the English and restore the rightful king, Charles VII, to the throne. At first, her claims were dismissed as the ravings of a madman. After all, how could a simple country girl with no military experience lead the French to victory? But as Joan persisted with her claims, a small group of supporters began to gather around her. Among them was a man named Jean de Metz, the bishop of the region. Metz was initially skeptical of Joan's visions, but ultimately decided to investigate. He sent her to Chinon to meet with King Charles VII. There, the king disguised himself as a courtier and Joan was asked to identify him. According to legend, she immediately recognized the king and proclaimed him the true monarch of France. While historians debate the validity of this story, it's clear that those who heard it saw it as a sign of Joan's divine mission. As a result, Charles VII allowed her to accompany his army to the Siege of Orléans. It was a critical moment in the war. The English were closing in on the city, and if they captured it, the entire north of France would fall under their control. Joan's presence gave the demoralized French soldiers a new sense of purpose. She rode into battle wearing a white dress and a red cloak, carrying a sword and a shield emblazoned with the fleur-de-lis, the symbol of the French monarchy. Her bravery and charisma were infectious, and soon the entire city was behind her. With Joan leading the way, the French launched a series of daring attacks against the English, each one more successful than the last. Within days, the siege was lifted and the English were forced to retreat. For the French, this was nothing short of a miracle. Joan of Arc had arrived in a village and single-handedly turned the tide of battle. As news of her victory spread throughout France, more and more people began to believe in her divine mission. And with their support, she became a key player in the French court. When Charles VII was crowned King of France in Reims, Joan was by his side. She had achieved everything she set out to do, but her success made her enemies. Many of the French nobility were uneasy with Joan's rise to power. They questioned her motives, her methods, and her sanity. Most importantly, they feared her influence over the young king. To them, Joan was a threat to the traditional order of things, and they would stop at nothing to get rid of her. In 1430, Joan's luck ran out. While campaigning near Compiègne, she was captured by Burgundian forces, who were allies of the English. At first, her captors intended to exchange her for some English prisoners, but they quickly changed their minds when they realized how valuable a trophy Joan would be for the English. The Burgundians sold Joan to the English for 10,000 francs, and suddenly she found herself in the hands of her greatest enemies. The English had no intention of returning her to the French. They wanted to use her as a bargaining chip to gain more territory and power. Joan was taken to Rouen, where she was imprisoned in a church. Her captors hoped that the stress of her situation would cause her to recant her claims of divine mission, but Joan stood firm. She refused to renounce her beliefs or compromise her position. Instead, she continued to pray, read scripture, and encourage her supporters. The English grew increasingly frustrated by Joan's steadfastness, and eventually they decided to put her on trial for heresy. The trial was a sham from start to finish. The judges had already made up their minds that Joan was guilty, and no amount of evidence could convince them otherwise. She was charged with a variety of offenses, including dressing as a man, claiming to have visions from God, and leading an army against the English. But the most serious charge was heresy. The English wanted to prove that Joan was a false prophetess who had deceived the French people. Throughout the trial, Joan displayed remarkable courage and intelligence. She defended herself against the attacks of her enemies and refuted their accusations with logic and reason, but it was no use. The English were determined to convict her, and in the end she was found guilty on all counts. On May 30th, 1431, Joan of Arc was burned at the stake in Rouen. As the flames engulfed her, she cried out, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus!" And with that, the legendary warrior and mystic died. But her story didn't end there. Joan's death had a profound impact on the course of history. Her unwavering courage and determination inspired the French people to continue fighting for their freedom. And in the end, they won the war. Joan was canonized as a saint in 1920 and is now considered a national heroine of France. However, it's important to note that Joan was not perfect. Like all humans, she had flaws and weaknesses, but her imperfections only made her more relatable and admirable. Throughout history, people have often been reluctant to accept women in positions of power, but Joan's story shows that gender should not be a barrier to leadership. She proved that women can be just as brave, intelligent, and effective leaders as men. Moreover, Joan's story is a reminder of the importance of standing up for what you believe in, no matter how difficult it may be. She faced persecution, imprisonment, and death, but she never wavered in her commitment to her mission. Joan of Arc was a complex and controversial figure. She was a warrior and a visionary, a saint and a heretic. But above all, she was a symbol of hope in a time of darkness. Her story is a testament to the power of the human spirit and the courage it takes to stand up for what you believe in. In conclusion, Joan of Arc's story is a reminder that history is rarely black and white. She was not simply a hero or a villain, but a product of her time, a young woman who dared to dream of a better world and fought for it with all her heart. Whether you see her as a saintly martyr, a tragic victim of circumstance, or a cunning strategist, one thing is certain: Joan of Arc was a force to be reckoned with. Now it's your turn to add to the story. What do you think of Joan of Arc? Do you see her as a hero, a villain, or something in between? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe for more exciting historical tales. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with your friends. Your support means the world to us. Thanks for watching.
A vision came to me in the night. I was only 17, it felt so right. I cannot stay, I must obey. Joan, Joan, what have you done? Joan, Joan, nowhere to run. The voices in my head, they tell me so. Take the French to glory instead of woe. I cannot stay, I must obey. Joan, Joan, what have you done? Joan, Joan, nowhere to run. I cannot stay, I must obey. Joan, Joan, what have you done? Joan, Joan, nowhere to run. The voices in my head, they tell me so. Take the French to glory instead of woe. I cannot stay, I must obey. Joan, Joan, what have you done? Joan, Joan, nowhere to run. The voices in my head, they tell me so. Take the French to glory